So, a new ship named after another mythological figure. Well, get ready for some mythological references and storytelling. Hey everyone, today we are going to be looking at one of the new ships, Theseus.
コローサス級軽空母シーシュースよ。はじめまして、艦隊を率いる羊飼いさん。戦闘でも火事でもおまじないでもシーシュースに用があったらいつでも声をかけてね。
Theseus is a super rare light aircraft carrier from the Royal Navy. She is of the Colossus class and man, what a name for a ship class. Anyway, she has one other sister in Azur Lane and that is Perseus. Her voice actress is Natsumi Murakami and she currently doesn't voice anyone else in Azur Lane. But she is known for other roles like Ako Saotome from Aikatsu Stars and Ai Miyashita from the Love Life series. Alright, let's talk about naval references. Theseus was laid down to serve in World War II, but by the time peace was declared in 1945, she was not completed. This is why Theseus mentions that she missed her chance to fight in the war. However, she was actively present during the Korean War and the Swiss crisis.
コローサス級空母のシーシュースよ。かの大戦では少し完成が遅れて戦いには間に合わなかった。でも大丈夫よ。シーシュースの船はシーシュースそのもの。どんなことがあっても変わらないわ。
At first glance, Theseus' skills emphasize a lot on her damage output. This could be a reference to her inflicting massive damage on North Korean troops and land vehicles over the course of the war. Now let's move on to references to Greek mythology, because there are a lot of them, no surprise. So here are the ones that I can find. Her first skill is called Ariadne's Conundrum. Ariadne was Theseus' lover and she was the one who provided him a ball of thread, which helped him navigate Daedalus' labyrinth and slay the Minotaur. Theseus then sailed away with Ariadne and other young Athenians on Crete, but for some reason, Theseus decided to ditch Ariadne on the island of Naxos and sailed away. There isn't really an explanation why Theseus abandoned Ariadne. Some say it could be divine intervention, but maybe this could be why the skill is called a conundrum, since it refers to something that is confusing. Her second skill is called Phaedra's Longing. In Greek mythology, Phaedra was Theseus' second wife and sister to Ariadne. You know, the person that he abandoned. Man, he was such a But anyway, the term Phaedra's Longing is a reference to her longing for her stepson, Hippolytus. There are a few versions of this love story, but this is the one that makes most sense to me. So Hippolytus was a worshipper of Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and among other things, the goddess of chastity. This led to him vowing to never fall in love or marry, which offended Aphrodite, the goddess of love. This made her curse Phaedra to fall madly in love with him, causing her to have dreadful longings for Hippolytus. But because Hippolytus refused to marry or love, he rejected her. Such immoral desires drove Phaedra to plan her suicide, but before that, she wrote Theseus a letter saying that it was Hippolytus who attempted to seduce her. This led to Theseus praying to Poseidon to kill Hippolytus, which he did by summoning a huge bull to scare Hippolytus' horses into a frenzy, and dragging Hippolytus to his death. Now another possible reference to a longing could be towards Theseus instead of Hippolytus. This was because Theseus had a best friend called Pirithous, and they spent so much time together to the point where Phaedra felt neglected. This could also be the reason why Phaedra tried to convince Hippolytus to be her lover. Her third skill is called Athena's Aegis, which provides a few supportive elements like decreasing the Art of Ammo debuff, healing herself, and decreasing her damage taken. This is really fitting because Athena, as the patron goddess of Athens, can be said to be providing protection to Theseus, who was the king of Athens. However, in the Chinese server, this skill is called the Ship of Theseus. Now I'm sure everyone has heard about it from WandaVision, so long story short, it is a paradox because the ship went through many repairs, with many of its parts being replaced. So no one knows how much of the original ship remained. Thus the question arises if the ship was still the same one or not. Alright, so let's talk about her skills. Her first skill is called Ariadne's Conundrum. 3 seconds after the battle starts or when the ship launches an airstrike, she will launch an additional level 10 special airstrike, which damage is based on the skill level. Increases this ship's damage dealt by 15% against enemies that have been afloat for 10 seconds or longer. Overall, this is a very amazing skill because it truly boosts her damage output. The special airstrike consists of 3 torpedo bombers, which you can see at the start of the battle. What's even more amazing is that the next time this skill is triggered when launching an airstrike, she'll have a total of 6 torpedo bombers, 3 from the special airstrike and 3 from her normal airstrike. That is insane because her torpedo bomber efficiency is already very high at 150%. This paired with a damage boost of 15% for enemies afloat for 10 seconds or longer and a pretty high aviation stat greatly boosts her damage potential, and I love it. Her next skill is called Phaedra's Longing. Increases this ship's aviation and accuracy by 15%. Every 12 seconds, she will fire a level 10 special barrage, which damage is based on the skill level and the ship's aviation stat. As mentioned before, her aviation stat is pretty high. Now the special barrage here isn't an airstrike but rather an AP barrage, consisting of these pink stars that move in a circular motion and cover pretty much the entire screen. Well, I wouldn't say this is her main source of damage, but the fact that it scales with a high aviation stat is fantastic. Her last skill is called Athena's Aegis. Every 10 seconds after the battle starts, she'll restore 1% of her own max HP. When this ship has the out of ammo debuff, decreases the debuff damage reduction effect by 15%. When the fleet this ship is in sinks an enemy, decreases this ship's damage taken by 3.5% for the rest of the sortie, which can be stacked up to 3 times. This is a very good skill because it helps her very low HP compared to the other carriers in the game so far. I mean, it does make sense because she is a light aircraft carrier, so this skill helps a lot with her survivability. Now let's talk about builds. For fighters, I will try to balance the plane's reload and damage as we want Theseus to launch her special airstrike more often. So out of the best damage fighters, the fastest reload would be the Grumman F8F Bearcat that you can get from Gear Lab. Another option is the Vought F4U Corsair, which you can get easily from the core data shop, or the Mitsubishi A7M Raptor. Of course, you can choose other high damaging fighters like the Havilland Sea Hornet or the F7F Tiger Cat, but their reloads are relatively longer. Next up, we have the dive bombers. The fastest one is the Yokosuka Suisei Model 12A or its more accessible predecessor, the D4Y Suisei. Similar to the fighters, you can definitely choose more offensive bombers like the McCluskey plane, the SSB-3C or the famous Rainbow Tenrai, but you will be sacrificing a bit of reload for more damage. Lastly, we have torpedo bombers. I feel that Theseus would be better off in a boss fleet as her first skill allows her to deal more damage to ships that are afloat for more than 10 seconds. So for bosses, converging torpedo bombers are preferred, like the Nakajima, C6 and Sayun from Research. You can also go with either the Junkers or the Ryosei from Gear Lab for more damage. That being said, Theseus can also be used in mob fleets too because sometimes there are enemies that are just that thick. So for such cases, parallel torpedo bombers are used and there are a lot more options to choose from. Starting with the fastest is the Brigade BR-810 from the Angel of the Iris event, followed by the very accessible Ferry Barracuda. Another great option is the Western Wyvern from Gear Lab that balances reload with damage. Other options like the Sky Pirate and the VK-107 from Gear Lab and Research respectively deal a lot of damage, but they have the highest reload in this list. Alright, so let's talk about skins. As for her default art, all I can say is that it is very similar to Perseus' design, from the color scheme to the staff and the wings. I personally prefer Perseus' design better because I think Theseus' one is rather plain. The only extravagant part is the huge wings, so I'd probably give this a 7 out of 10. Her next skin is New Year's White Plumage. Other than the fan service elements, I also think this skin is pretty meh. She definitely is very pretty though, but for 880 gems, I don't think it's worth it. She also doesn't look too different from her original skin, so yeah, another 7 out of 10 for me. Also, if you look closely, you can see Prince Rupert in the background. Alright, so what are my thoughts about Theseus? Now, I think she is amazing. Her offensive skills are where she truly shines. I was really shocked by how much damage she can deal because of that special airstrike with 6 torpedo bombers. She is definitely someone worth summoning if you need a very good offensive carrier. The best part is that she is in the Royal Navy, so having her with Queen E will make Theseus even stronger. Alright, so there you have it. Here are all my thoughts about Theseus. What do you guys think? Do let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do leave a like if you guys did, subscribe for more awesome content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.